When I first read the synopsis for this episode several weeks ago, I got the sense that the writers were going to try for another story about siblings with a similar feel to Sisterhooves Social, which, considering that Sisterhooves Social happens to be one of my personal favorite MLP episodes, would be a good thing. I loved seeing an episode where both Rarity and Sweetie Belle were able to learn from each other and become all the stronger for it. I mean, we've seen several episodes where Applejack is helping Apple Bloom to learn a lesson, but not really the other way around. I mean, the only episode that even came close would be Bridal Gossip, and Applejack and Apple Bloom weren't the focus of that story. So going into this episode, I was really hoping to see both of the Apple sisters teaching and learning a lesson here. As the episode begins, we see the rest of the Apple family deciding that Apple Bloom is finally old enough to stay home by herself for the afternoon to do her chores. Naturally, we see the CMC getting overly excited, but really, who can blame them? Every single one of us has gone through this moment where we finally get to be on our own and given enough trust to be responsible. But at the same time, I'm glad to see that this new writer decided to make Apple Bloom competent even when on her own. I was worried that we might have seen another story where a child breaks something and then spends the rest of the episode trying to hide that fact from the rest of her family. Sure, she makes a mess here and there, but she was still focused enough to get through the entire list of chores even before Applejack came back to check on her. And speaking of, here we get to see Applejack acting like an overprotective mother figure, which actually makes a lot of sense. It seems rather obvious to me that Applejack is the one who has done the most in raising her younger sister, especially with how she's acting compared to Big Mac and Granny Smith in this episode. So in my mind, Applejack's behavior here isn't so much about questioning Apple Bloom's ability to take care of herself. Rather, this is more about the fact that Applejack has spent so many years being a caretaker that she has trouble accepting that Apple Bloom may not need her that much anymore. A lot of parents go through this same realization, albeit they react in many different ways. And even though Applejack isn't Apple Bloom's mother in the biological sense, she really is her mother in every other sense. Now, the lengths that Applejack goes to in order to keep her sister safe is definitely going too far. Applejack is going way overboard with all the fixes here, and yet I can't help but laugh at the absurdity. I know that the writers are really playing up this aspect, but I was still enjoying all these scenes. Naturally, this gets Apple Bloom feeling desperate to prove herself, and I suppose if Applejack wasn't being so overprotective, it might have been more of an awkward transition for Apple Bloom to suddenly decide on taking the cart of apple pies on her own. Oh no, are they really starting up another song? Here? This feels so out of place. I figured that this must have been one of those episodes where they had trouble filling out the time. Only to immediately put a stop to it? Okay, that was clever, and another little tidbit that made me laugh. Ooh, what's this? A new location, middle of a mist-filled swamp. I like that the MLP staff are adding some exotic new locales to the world of Equestria. Wait, a fire swamp? Okay, I know that everyone is going to start making Princess Bride references in their reviews, but I gotta put this in here.
Well, one thing I will say, a swamp certainly does keep you on your toes.
Wait, they wouldn't put an ROUS in this show, would they? Nah, I guess that would be asking too much. Whoa, is that a chimera? An intelligent chimera? Huh. When I went into this episode, I thought we'd be getting another slice of life story. Nice to see that they're adding more adventure elements to this show, as well as putting in more fantastical creatures. And even more than that, it seems that the writers chose to use a chimera because they wanted to add in a bit more about the lesson, especially when the goat head and the tiger head start arguing with each other. Plus, we get to see Applejack showing some impressive survival skills again, so that's definitely fun. Honestly, between jumping on the back of a manticore in the Season 1 opener, taking out 3 Timberwolves by herself in Spike at Your Service, and even being the first to act against the Crocodile in the Season 4 opener, Applejack is by far the most courageous and skilled when it comes to holding her own. And just like I was hoping going into this episode, the lesson shows both of the Apple sisters learning something from each other. The writers could have gone just with Apple Bloom learning to respect her sister's protectiveness, or just with Applejack learning to trust her sister's capabilities, but finding a middle ground between the two was a nice touch. Applebloom does get grounded for going off on her own, but Applejack is more than willing to trust her sister the next time she gets to take care of herself. So MLP brings another family-centered conflict that is completely believable without any of the characters feeling like they went overboard. And yes, I still think all those moments where Applejack is being an overprotective mother figure are a nice addition to her character. And at the same time, I can laugh at the absurdity. Also, a Cajun pony town? Yet another little tidbit that is adding on to the world building of Equestria. And now it makes a lot more sense as to why the road for delivering pies has its dangers. In the meantime, though, I would like to hear your thoughts. Knowing that Applebloom has been given more episodes than any other member of the CMC, how do you think this story compares to her previous appearances? What is your opinion on Applejack's actions on being an overprotective mother figure? Could it be that she has trouble letting go of someone who has needed her for so long? What do you think about the addition of both a new location and a new creature to add to the world building? Can you relate to the lessons being learned by the Apple sisters here? I would like to hear your thoughts on Somepony to watch over me, and here's to looking forward to even more family bonding in future episodes. Seriously, these new writers are putting together some really solid work this season. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.